Hi everyone, in today's video we are going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into colour correction specifically for the under eyes. I have genetically dark under eyes, and coupled with that I'm now well into my 40s and my under eyes are starting to really thin out, and I have some very prominent under eye veins that I really struggle to conceal. So I've recently been testing out 3 drugstore colour correctors and 3 high-end colour correctors, and today I'm going to be bringing you my results. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, then please do keep on watching. So colour correction, what is it? So if we have a look at the colour wheel that I'm going to pop on the screen for you now. So the idea of the colour wheel is that the colours that lie directly opposite to one another help to cancel one another out. They neutralise one another. So for example, if you have a lot of blueness under the eyes, you will look opposite on the colour wheel and you will see there are peaches and oranges. And for example, if you have some redness on the face, if you look opposite on the colour wheel, you will see green. So using a green tinted makeup product should help to cancel that redness out. For me personally, I have a lot of darkness under the eyes, but my main concern really is a prominent blue vein that I have under my eye here. The reason that I haven't really embraced colour correctors is because I would follow the advice of choosing a concealer that has a little bit more of a peachy undertone and using that, and it has worked out quite well. However, I've just come to realise that peachy toned concealers don't necessarily brighten my under eyes. So that's why I have been flirting with colour correctors. However, I will say that for me, the one negative of using a colour corrector, and I still stand by it is just adding more product under your eyes, and the more product that you add, the more risk you have of creasing and looking a little bit heavy. So you have to go in minimally with these colour correctors. I think it's really important to be realistic. I know that I'm never fully going to conceal that area because the skin is so thin there that blue vein is going to show no matter what I do. And I think we have to have realistic expectations about how much we are going to be able to conceal. Obviously, the shades that I've picked today suit my under eyes. Have a good look at your under eyes and pick whatever is the opposite to that colour. I think the trickiness comes with where there's various colours under the eyes, and I think you just have to pick what is most prominent. So I always apply concealers with a brush. I don't really like using my fingers for makeup. However, just to make things fair and even, I applied all of these colour correctors with my finger. But obviously, if you want more coverage, you can go in with your brush. For this test, I used the colour corrector and then I followed it with the exact same concealer every time. And the concealer that I picked for the test is a mid-range concealer, which is the Tower 28 Swipe Serum Concealer. It's a medium to full coverage concealer. So for every single application that you see here, you can see the colour corrector and then this over the top. So I think we will start with the high-end concealers, and we're going to start with one that I have used on and off for years, and it's this one from Nars. This is the Nars Radiant Creamy Colour Corrector. This is available in 4 shades, and I have the shade medium. So it's quite a small shade range, which I guess makes the choices a little bit simpler. According to the colour wheel, my best options for neutralising the colour under my eyes would be a peach or an orange. So there is the shade medium. So yes, quite orange. I think that I probably could have gone with going a little bit lighter. So the Nars Radiant Creamy Colour Corrector retails for around about £26. You get 6 ml of product and there are 4 shades to choose from. This claims to diminish the appearance of under eye circles, dark spots and hyperpigmentation. Its blend of red tone pigments works to neutralise blue and purple toned imperfections for a natural finish. Micro powders help to smooth the skin by filling lines, creases and wrinkles, and the addition of red spiderling flower extract and white water lily help to promote a brighter, soothed and more luminous complexion. So there is a before and an after here, straight after I applied the concealer, and I don't think you can see much of a difference. On its own, it wouldn't work for me. I couldn't just whack on this colour corrector and walk out the door. However, if you look at it after I apply some concealer, I think that it has done quite a good job at neutralising that darkness. I think it has struggled a little bit with covering and neutralising the colour of the vein under my eyes. You might be able to tell from the footage there that I have one eye that is much worse than the other. So just looking at a screenshot of the before and the after, I think it's done a decent job, but it's not perfect. So I think all in all, this is a decent colour corrector. It does a pretty decent job, but it's definitely not my favourite. Up next, we have the Huda Beauty Faux Filter Under Eye Colour Corrector, and this retails for about £26. So this comes in 5 shades, and I picked up the shade Peach, which is definitely more of a true peach, I would say. So this, along with the Nars, is obviously another liquid concealer. So as I said, the Huda Beauty retails for £26, and for that you actually get 9ml of product. It claims to be a creamy, comfortable and a sheer formula. It is infused with a brightening cocktail of actives like vitamin C and niacinamide to soften pigmentation and brighten the under eye area. It is crease, sweat and it is transfer proof. I think this is a really, really lightweight concealer, so it's not full coverage in my opinion. The Huda is very similar to the Nars for me, but I think it actually steps things up a little bit more. So obviously you get more product, so it is more worth your while. However, in terms of the performance, it's very similar to the Nars in the fact that I can't just pop this on and walk out the door. I have to use a concealer over the top of it. So I don't think there's much of a noticeable difference in the before and the after before you pop on the concealer. After the concealer, I do think there is a noticeable difference there. I do still think that you can see the prominent vein after the concealer. In terms of darkness, I think it does an absolutely brilliant job. The Nars and the Huda do a great job. They just struggle because they are so lightweight to cover something that is so prominent in that vein. Maybe if you used more of a full coverage concealer, it might help. All in all, a very, very lightweight and very, very good colour corrector. The last one from high end is the Bobbi Brown Skin Corrector Stick. And I would say that this is my favourite of the 3 that I've tried from high end. As it says in the name, it is a stick. It's a little bit like a lipstick actually, because it has a really lovely magnetic close on it. I don't know why I'm always so impressed with magnetic closing, but I just am. Simple things for simple people. So this is obviously different to the other 2 in the fact that it is a cream formula rather than a liquid. And I do think you can tell the difference between the 2. Now, one thing I will say is the shade choosing was very hard with this one because there are so many options. This is the shade that I went for, which is Peach. And I think if you compare this to the Nars and you compare it to the Huda, you will see such a stark difference, especially when we compare this peach to the Huda Beauty peach. It's completely different. So there's the Huda, which is definitely more orangey. Let's have a look at this being applied. Bobbi Brown Corrector Stick retails for about £29, and for that you get 3 grams of product. There are 12 shades to choose from with this stick. So this product helps to instantly neutralize discoloration and brighten dark circles with skin true coverage. It has a creamy and buildable formula and becomes one with the skin for seamless concealer prep. Coffee seed extract and salicornia infuse skin with immediate and long-term moisture for plumper and smoother looking skin, and it promises to deliver 12 hours of waterproof, sweat and humidity resistant colour correction. In the video, I directly apply this to my under eyes, and I have experimented with rubbing my finger on and then tapping it under my eye, but I actually feel like I prefer to go in straight on the skin, which wouldn't really be like me with a product, but maybe it's because it gives me a little bit more coverage. With the before and the after, without any concealer, you could literally walk out the door. And I don't think you would necessarily need a concealer over the top of it. Once concealer has been applied, you will see how amazing this colour corrector is. A lot of it is to do with the colour. I think this is a true peach, which I think does help to neutralise that prominent vein. I have used a little bit of that under the eyes today, along with another colour corrector. And I do have to say that this is definitely my favourite out of the high end. It does give more full coverage, and I do think you need to be careful because it's so easy to go in too handy with this colour corrector. If you just apply a little, and as it says, it is buildable, you know, you can always add more, but you can't always take it away. That's a general rule that I live by. I think the results really do speak for themselves with the Bobbi Brown. Definitely my winner in the high-end category. We are moving on to the drugstore colour correctors now, and we're starting with this one from e.l.f. This is the e.l.f. Putty Colour Correcting Eye Brightener. This is available in 6 shades, and I got the shade light to medium. This is our first pot concealer. It's very hard to see on a swatch because it's very similar to my skin tone. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but that is very hard for you to see. This is a very lightweight colour corrector, and if you ever used the Becca colour corrector, it is extremely similar. So the texture, the finish, and I would say that this is probably the most lightweight of all of the colour correctors, but just because it's lightweight doesn't mean it's not good. So the e.l.f. Putty Colour Correcting Eye Brightener retails for around about £6. It features colour correcting peach hues to reduce the appearance of dark circles. It has illuminating pearls to brighten your under eyes. And the unique putty formula offers medium coverage and effortless blending. It's infused with skin-loving squalene, hyaluronic acid and ginseng root extract. Do you feel like this is one that you can apply to your under eyes and you can be on your way? I think it does a really nice job at just subtly neutralizing the darkness. I know it says that it's medium coverage, but I don't really get that from it. I definitely get more of a lightweight coverage from this color corrector. It's a very luminous color corrector. Okay, so I think that you need to be careful if you have under eyes like mine. So my eyes are not only dark and not only veiny, but they are very hollow as well. So the problem is, if you use something that's quite luminous on your under eyes, you are then going to emphasize the hollows under your eyes. Do you think that you get that luminosity from this product? It can neutralize one problem but leave you with another one. So obviously this footage, they're all without powder, and obviously, if you use powder, it is going to mattify that hollow. And although all of these colour correctors last super during the day, I do think that this feels quite emollient. Out of all of them, it would be one that would sit into the lines a little bit towards the end of the day. Now, obviously, these are not miracle workers. If there are lines, fine lines under your eyes, these correctors are going to sit into them. I have under eye lines, lots of fine lines around here. And if you're going to put product there, it's going to sit into them. This is a product that would be more inclined to move around a little bit because it is so lightweight and quite emollient. But actually, I think it's really good at subtly neutralizing that darkness, and I think you can see that in the before and after. Next up from the drugstore, we have this little beauty. I didn't even know that this existed until I started my research. So this is the Maybelline Face Studio Master Camo Colour Correcting Concealer Kit. And this is great because you obviously get numerous shades in here. And this only cost me £5 and it is really good. So basically with this palette, these two are supposed to be correctors, these are supposed to conceal, and these are supposed to highlight. I've been predominantly using this peachy tone here. This has a very similar formula to the e.l.f. So very creamy, but very lightweight. It literally blends so seamlessly into the skin. So this palette comes in 3 different options. So you've got light, you've got medium, and you've got deep. It helps to neutralize tone issues, helps to correct, conceal, and highlight all in one. And it helps to conceal and cover dark circles, imperfections, and blemishes. The one thing I will absolutely say for this palette is it becomes one with your under eyes. It literally sinks into the skin. There is no heaviness and no cakiness. Honestly, I think this performs so well without an actual concealer. If we look at the before and the after when I had actually applied concealer following the corrector. It's done a nice enough job on the under eyes. I do think it's a very, very luminous colour corrector. Very, very similar actually to the e.l.f. The consistency of the formulation is very, very similar. I would be tempted to use this with a more full coverage, more of a matte concealer rather than luminous. Again, going back to the issues I spoke about with the under eye hollows, if you use this with a luminous concealer, you will run the risk of emphasizing things that you don't want emphasizing. So it's really good. And the great thing about this is if you don't want to invest in a separate concealer, you can just use this palette. So you can use this to correct and then you can use one of these to conceal. So I think that's the beauty of this. For the price, I really don't think you can grumble at that, and it performs really nicely. It just doesn't have the full coverage of some of the others. Last but not least is a colour correcting palette from NYX, and this is the 3C colour correcting palette. This is definitely my favourite from the drugstore, and I would say this along with the Bobbi Brown are my two top picks from this whole bunch, and I've predominantly used this under my eyes today. The difference between this and the Maybelline palette and the e.l.f. is the fact that this has way more coverage. Okay, so I would describe this as a medium to full coverage colour corrector. And I guess the beauty of this as well is that you have lots of other shades in here for if you have other discoloration on your face like I do. I mean, I have used some of the green and tried it where I have the broken capillaries, the red on my nose, but the problem is when you are concealing things on your nose, if you're like me and you blow your nose a lot or you get quite sniffly, which I do in winter and the summer, you're just wiping it off. It's really hard to get things to stick around. So again, I'm applying the peachy coloured shade here. So this palette retails for about £10 and it comprises of 6 shades. The rich pigment and creamy texture blends easily and conceals superbly for a flawless finish. And the palette is also available in 3 different shade options, so light, medium and deep. Again, having a look at the before and the after, I do think it's one that you could use and then you could walk out the door without using another concealer. I would say that the big difference between this and the Bobbi Brown is I think that the Bobbi Brown has more coverage. So I think that's why the Bobbi Brown performs much better than all of them. If you have under eyes like me, so if you have something that's really, really problematic, you are better going for something that's full coverage because you can use less product. So with the Bobbi Brown, I need a couple of taps of it and it will neutralize everything. Whereas with the other products, I do have to build them up a bit. And then when you build something up, you are risking more settling into lines and a little bit more cakiness. This is definitely my favorite from the drugstore because it is a bit more full coverage than the other drugstore options, although it does have the same creamy consistency. I just think that this palette does an incredible job at neutralizing that blueness under the eyes. However, I do think that it performs better like the other drugstore options with a concealer over the top of it. In terms of value for money at the drugstore, I think this having those different shades in there, so obviously you've got your green and your purple and your yellow, I think that you will get a lot of use out of this, much more use than you would with, for example, the e.l.f. pot. So if I was to round this up, I would say that number one, I've discovered that I prefer a creamy colour corrector to a liquid colour corrector because I find that you do get more coverage. And I think if I had to pick a number one favourite out of all of these, I would have to go for the Bobbi Brown. In terms of the coverage and the end result, this one definitely did the best job out of all of them. So am I converted to colour correctors? I would say yes. I mean, I'm not going to use them every single day of my life because it is just an added step to my routine, but I am definitely enjoying them a lot more than I used to. So let us know down in the comments, do you use a colour corrector? And if you have one that you absolutely love, let us know what that is down in the comments, whether it be drugstore or from high end. We want to know all about it. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I so appreciate you being here with me. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next one. But until then, take care and bye for now.